All right, everyone, we have achieved peak irony. Oh, I love this story because Laurenwolfe, who worked for the New York Times as a columnist, she got fired a few days ago, and immediately all sorts of leftists were dogpiling, threatening, oh, we're going to cancel our New York Times subscription. How dare you fire Laurenwolfe for making a tweet saying that she got chills watching Beijing Biden's inauguration when he was arriving by plane and stepping down onto the ground. First and foremost, that is apparently not true. The New York Times claims that had nothing to do with the firing and that it was more than one tweet. They insinuate that it was Twitter related, but they don't insinuate it was that tweet. Secondly, though, can we just appreciate the irony of two things? First and foremost, the fact that Laurenwolfe herself was a cancel culturalist and repeatedly praised censorship, the purging of the far right, the purging of alt tech, the suppression of voices contrary to her own political belief system. For her then to be all miffed about being canceled by the New York Times. Well, they're a private company. It's their choice. They don't have to do business with you. You don't have to bake the fucking cake, not unless you're an actual bakery, apparently. Small businesses see they're held to a different standard. It's just like when Apple expects Parler, which is now probably kaput permanently, to cast aside its 230 provisional protections in order to use the App Store when Apple enjoys 230 provisions. So I appreciate the irony there on the nose. I also appreciate the irony of a bunch of other cancel culturalist loving bullshit artists like Jared Holt complaining about this and saying, well, we need to stop giving in to the outrage mob. Maybe you should fact check. Listen to the New York Times explanation where they quite clearly say it had nothing to do with that tweet. That's the claim that I guess this columnist is making. Well, I tweeted about having chills and they fired me. How do I know that you weren't like sexually harassing your fellow employees or doing crazy shit? How do I know you don't have ties to a far left group that's building bombs right now or something? I mean, you do work for the New York Times. Just to be clear, there's a little bit of a overlap there. It could be for anything. And the New York Times saying, well, we've got, privacy laws are in place. We're not going to talk about it. And they don't have to. Here's the thing. It was even funnier. The second layer of irony on the end is that these people are like, well, there's a difference between her being canceled for a tweet and people being canceled for being associated with violence. Associated with, like Alex Jones, again, very violent individual. No, in many cases, the people that are being hit by cancel culture, they simply oppose the MSM, or they're nutty, like they're conspiracy theorists. The idea of conspiracy theories as being linked to extremism and danger is not a realistic coordination. It's not really, there's no realism behind the claim that you go from wearing a tinfoil hat and watching St. Brigida documentary to bombing a school or something. There's really no reason to correlate those two. Or people that are just really mouthy in general. They say edgy shit. Trolls and satirists, people that are involved in humor of any sort. At this point, late night humor basically for 4 years was Trump. That was it. He was all-encompassing. By the way, it ruined comedy. Trump can be funny at times, but continuous jokes about how he's orange, how he's got small hands. Okay, that's funny for a night or two, but when you do it 4 years on, at some point you got to get some new material. Comedians were very happy because they were paid whether they were funny or not. Didn't matter because they were all making the same 3 jokes over and over again. I just find it funny that people who explicitly endorse cancel culture, Laurenwolfe, Holt, other people, some of these craptivist groups, they like it. They like the idea of deplatforming people anyway. All of a sudden they have a problem with this. And they're not even sure it had anything to do with the tweet about Biden. And if it did, again, they don't have to bake the fucking cake, bigot. No, they don't have to do that. It's a private company. They can do it. Why don't you build your own New York Times? Why don't you make your own New York Times? Oh, wait, that's right. Alt media exists. Alt tech exists. We're already doing that. It's just that you're not along for the ride because you stubbornly plant your feet, insinuate that these groups are simply platforming extremists and Nazis and shit like that, and spewing a bunch of propaganda on behalf of the corporations that are paying you to do it. I guarantee that the average salary being paid to these craptivists, these ones that, they engage in doxing and dogpile and brigade people on Twitter and stuff like that, the ones that will mass email a company demanding they sever service to a company because someone said something they didn't like, I guarantee a lot of their money comes from the big tech firms and from the MSM. Basically, they're paid hitmen. When you think about it, it's almost mafioso. You almost have to have a little bit of respect for it, that they've created such an arrangement and all the lemmings of society can't notice that that's the fact. It's almost like gangland shit, and they're completely oblivious. They still think that these groups are separate and never coordinate together. They were even fed proof of it. They were fed proof back in the 2016 election that the Hillary Clinton campaign was openly colluding with MSNBC and CNN and other groups. We had email leaks to that effect. Try and confront these people with that knowledge. They won't even believe you. They'll call you a conspiracy theory. You can even show them the fucking email. They'll never open it or read it. Their cognitive dissonance slammed down so hard, man, it's just like a goddamn tortoiseshell in a tank. That's about all. Peace out.